Hi everyone, Mrs. Wilson here, and here is the Year 5-6 video for this week. So the first thing we're going to do is have a look at the fraction work that you've been doing in maths. I know a lot of people have been struggling, so I'm going to try and cover all the different areas that we've been looking at and try and give you an idea and then go over one of the questions on those sheets to help you. So let's have a look.
So we're going to look at equivalent fractions first. Equivalent just means equal. So you can see here we've got a fraction wall, and you can see that 2/4 means the same as, they're equal to a half because of where it falls on the fraction wall. And the same with the eighths. We've got 4/8 that would be needed to mean the same as a half or be equivalent to. But sometimes we don't have that fraction wall. So as you can see, I've wrote the fractions out, but haven't put the numerators because we need to work that out ourselves. So the first one we're looking at is the 2 and the 4. So we know that 2 times 2 is 4. So I have to do the same to the numerator. I have to times that numerator by 2 as well. So that would be 1 times 2, which is 2. Now we're jumping ahead to the eighths one. Again, we're looking at the relationship between the 4 and the 8. We know we times 4 by 2 to get to 8. So I'm timesing the 2 by 2 to get to 4. So now I've got 4/8. And again with the 16th, I look at my 8, I look at the 16, and I've got to times that 8 by 2 to get to 16. So I've got to times that 4 by 2 to get my numerator, which again would be 8. So all of those fractions are equivalent to each other. They mean the same. So let's have a look at a few different ones. We've got 3/5 and we've got something over 15. So we look at the 5 and the 15 and we realise that 5 times 3 would get us 15. So I need to times my top number, my numerator, by 3. 3 times 3 would give me 9. 3/5 is the same as equivalent to 9/15. Then I look at the next one. I've got 15/18 and I've got something over 6. You may think, oh, the number's too small. It doesn't matter. We don't have to always times. We can always divide if we need to. So 18 and 6, I know I need 3 6s to get to 18. So I've got to divide this time by 3. So then I look at my numerator. My numerator is 15. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. 15/18 is the same as 5/6. And then finally, on the last one, we've got the numerator and not the denominator this time. So we do 7/21. I know I have to times by 3. So I have to do the same with my denominators. 8 times 3 is 24. So now we have 7/8 is the same as 21 over 24. Now let's have a look at a question on one of your sheets to see if we can apply it to the maths that we've been doing. So let's have a look at this question from the Year 5 equivalent fractions sheet. We've got lots of different fractions and we've got to work out whether they're equivalent to 1/4 or to 1/3. So sometimes it's looking at the relationship between the denominator and the numerator that is going to help us. So let's have a look then. So we've got 5/15. If we have a look at a number that goes into both those numbers, a dividing number, we can divide both of those by 5. So if I divided them both by 5, then I would get 1 on the top and 3 on the bottom. So I know that this one is equivalent to 1/3. And again with this one, if I have a look at a number that goes into both, so I could divide them both by 2, then I divide them by 2, I would get 1 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Again, 1/3. Next one, I've got 3/12. So again, I look at a number that goes into both. I can do it by 3, so I'm going to divide both by 3. I'm getting 1 on the top. This time I'm getting 4 on the bottom. So that is my 1/4. Then I've got my 6 over 24. So if I divide them both by 6, then I'm going to get 1 and then 4 on the bottom, which gets me 1/4. And here I'm looking at a number that goes into both of these, which would be 8. Divide them both by 8. It'll get me 1 on the top and 3 on the bottom. There's another one for the thirds. Then I've got 5/20. They both go into the 5s. So again, that's 1. This time that's 4, so that's for 1/4. And again, what times table are these both in? They're both in the 4s, so I can divide them both by 4. Top would be 1, bottom would be 3. And I've got 2 8s. They're both in the 2s. Divide them by 2, gives me 1/4. And there we can see how we can work out the equivalent fractions. So here we've got ordering fractions. So if the numerators are the same, the rule is the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction actually is. Because if you had a cake and you were cutting it into halves, you would get that whole half a cake. If you're cutting it into eighths, your piece is going to be a lot smaller. So these are quite easy then. If we're doing it ascending order, means smallest to biggest, we would do the biggest denominator, because we know that's the smallest fraction, and we'd order them like that. Pretty simple. The problem is when we get something like this, where the denominators are different and the numerators are different. So this time we have to change these fractions so they have the same denominator, because then it's really easy to compare them. So I'm looking at these numbers. I've got 7, 21, 3, 21. So the first thing I do is look at the biggest number and work out if these numbers go into this, which they do. So I'm going to have my common denominator as 21. So to change this to 21, I'm going to use my knowledge of equivalent fractions that we've just done, and I'm going to times this whole fraction, top and bottom, by 3. So 3 times 3 would be 9, 7 times 3 would be 21. Don't have to change this, so I'm just going to write that out. Then we've got this one. I know that 3 times 7 goes into 21, so I'm going to times the whole fraction by 7. So 7 on the top, 21 on the bottom. And again, this doesn't have to change. So if I was doing this in ascending order, I would go with the smallest one first, which is this one. So that's going to be my number 1, followed by this one. That's going to be my number 2, my number 3, and then my biggest one at number 4. So let's have a look at a question off your sheets to see if we can do that work now. So we're going to focus on 6C of the ordering and comparing fractions to have a look at what we've learnt.
So here is my 6C. As you can see, I haven't got the worksheet. I'm just doing it on paper because we don't need to print them off. They're just there to give us our questions. So the first thing I'm going to look at are the denominators. I can see that the numerators aren't the same, so I can't use that method. I'm looking at the denominators. I can see we've got the likes of 5, 10 and 2. So I look at the biggest denominator first, which is 10. I think, do the other ones go into it? Which they do. So I can change all of my fractions to be out of 10, to be in tenths. So the first thing I would look at is this one. What would I need to times it by? I'd need to times the whole fraction by 2. So I would have 6 over 10. Then I will go to the next one. That's exactly the same because it's already out of 10. This one, how many 2's go into 10? It's 5. So it would be 5 over 10. Can we see that I'm doing the numerator and the denominator, not just the denominator? That's where some people go wrong. And then this one, can we say the same? And then how many 5's go into 10? I know it's 2. So again, 1 times 2 is 2, and 5 times 2 is 10. Then the question is asking me for ascending, which again we spoke about is going up. So I have to go smallest first. So this would be my smallest, followed by this one, followed by this one, followed by this one, and finally this one. We can see they're very close, there's not much in it. So not comparing them, not putting them to the same denominator could cause some error because they are very similar fractions. Right, so really quickly then, comparing fractions. We have to use the signs greater than or less than. I always think of them like crocodile mouths, and the crocodile eats the bigger one. So we have a quarter and we have a 6. We can see that the numerators are the same. And if you remember from the last one we looked at, if the numerators are the same, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. So because this is the biggest denominator, this is my smaller fraction, my crocodile wants to eat the bigger fraction. So we would say a quarter is greater than 1/6. And again, with this one, we have the same denominators. So this is quite easy because again, the bigger the numerator, the bigger the fraction. So this time it wants to eat the 5/5. So I've got 2/5 is less than 4/5. This one's going to cause me a problem because they're not the same numerators and they're not the same denominators. So I'm going to have to change at least one of those fractions. So I look at 15. Does 5 go into 15? Yes, it does. So I only have to change this one fraction. So I'm going to times it by 3 because I know 5 times 3 is 15. So I'm going to times it by 3 and that's going to give me 9/15. Now it's mega easy to compare because I've got a 9 and I've got a 7. I know 9 is the bigger fraction, so my crocodile's going to want to eat that. 9/15 is greater than 7/15. This is where we're going to have a problem because neither of them go into each other. So I'm going to have to change both. So I look for a common denominator. One way of doing it is to times these two numbers together. So 3 times 4 is 12. I know that 12 could be a common denominator here. There may be smaller ones in other examples, but for this one, that method works. So to make this out of 12, I would do 3 times 4. So I'd do 2 times 4, which will give me 8. If I wanted this to be out of 12, 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to times it by 3.
3 times 3 is 9. So very, very close, but this one just beats it. So 2/3 is less than 3/4. So converting mixed numbers to improper fractions. A mixed number is simply a number that's made up of whole numbers and fractions. An improper fraction is a fraction where the denominator is smaller than the numerator. So sometimes we call it top heavy. So to change a mixed number into an improper fraction, we have to times the whole number by the denominator. So in this case, we're doing 2 times 5, which equals 10. We then add the numerator, which is 3. 10 plus 3 is 13. And we do 13 over 5 because that was our denominator to start with. Here, to change improper fractions to mixed numbers, we have to work out how many of the denominator goes into the numerator. So we do 15 divided by 4. So if I had 15 quarters and I put them into groups of 4, I would make 3 whole ones and I would have 3 left over. So I would have 3 whole ones and 3 quarters. So let's have a look at this one then. We've got 4 and 2/5. So again, I have to do 4 times 5, and that would give me 20. I then have to add the numerator, so 20 plus 2 equals 22, and I always do it out of the the denominator, that I started with. So it would be 22 over 5. Then we go on to this one. Remember, the first thing I have to do is 47 divided by 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is work out how many 6s go into 47. I know 42 is in the 6 times table, which is 7. I know then I'm going to have 5 left over, so 5 out of 6. So this is how we do converting from mixed numbers to improper fractions. So for the year 6s this time, we've got multiplying. We've got multiplying fractions by fractions and multiplying fractions by integers, which is just a fancy word for whole numbers. So we can see here we've got 1/4 times 3/5. So to multiply fractions, all we do is we multiply the tops together. Oh, that's supposed to be a multiplication sign. And then multiply the bottoms together. Then we might be able to simplify it, change it into a mixed number, but it all depends on the question. So I would do 1 times 3, which would give me 3, and 4 times 5, which would give me 20. I can't simplify that, so that would be my answer. For this one, obviously I'm timing by a whole number. To make this whole number into a fraction, all we do is put it over 1, because that means I've got 4 over 1, 4 whole ones. So again, I will do the same method, so I'm timesing by the top, which is 12, timesing by the denominators, which is 7. In this case, this is a top heavy fraction. This is an improper fraction. So we would have to change that. We'd work out how many 7s go into 12, which is 1, and I'd have 5 left over out of 7. So that is a quick whistle-stop tour of multiplying by fractions. So here is multiplying fractions in action. We've got to find the area of the blue shape. So we need to find the area of the rectangle, then find the area of the square, and then take that area of the square away from the rectangle. So let's have a go. So here's my problem. So what I need to do first is to find the area of this big rectangle. So I need to do this times this, length times width. So I would do 3 times 2, which is going to give me 6. I'll do 7 times 6, which is going to give me 42 metres. Then I jump down again, and it will be squared actually. Let me go back to that because it is area. And then obviously I'd go on this bit, so I'd do 1 times 1 is 1. I'd do 10 times 10 is 100 metres squared. Now my issue is, if I'm taking away that, I have to have the same on the bottom. I have to have the same denominators. So to do that, the easiest way to do it would be to times by what we've got. So if I had 6, 42, and I've got 1 and 100, and I am taking that away, the easiest way to do it would be to times this one by 100 times this one by 42. So times by 100 would give me 600, and then 4,200. Mind the rest of the paper, that was my son. And then I'm doing this one, which is times by 42, which would give me the same denominator, which is what I want. And it would be 42 on the top. So I know my answer is going to have 4,200 on the bottom. I'm going to do 600 take away 42. I know in my head that's 558, but you would just do column if you don't. Then obviously you could try and simplify it down. So I could do 558 divided by 2, which would give me 2, remainder 1, 7, remainder 1, and then 9. So that would be 279 over 2,100. I can see from that though that I could probably divide it by 3. So again, I'd use full stop. That would be 0. That would be 9. That would be 3. And then I know if I look at this one, then I could divide that by 3 and that would give me 700. So my answer is 93 over 700 metres squared. Right, really quickly then, dividing. Dividing fractions by whole numbers, by integers, is a little bit more tricky than just the multiplying, because what we have to do is change this number. And what we have to do is we multiply by its reciprocal. So a reciprocal means we're flipping this number over. If it was a fraction, it would look like 2 over 1. So to flip it over and change it to the reciprocal, it would then turn into 1 over 2, because all we're doing is flipping these two numbers over. Then we do exactly the same as what we did here, and we do 3 times 1 is 3. We do 4 times 2 is 8. So our answer is 3/8. And again with this one, this would be the fraction. If we change that into a fraction, we then have to flip it over. We're timesing by its reciprocal. So the 4 for this is saying we're timesing now by a third. 4 times 1 equals 4. 5 times 3 equals 15. So answer is 4/15. And last but not least, we've got fractions of an amount. So this has been used in context with obviously measurements, so litres, pounds, and they've used a bit of bar model as well. So I'm just going to give you the basics of how to do it. So what we have to remember is we divide by the denominator, we times by the numerator. So the first thing we're going to do is divide by the denominator. Obviously, if we don't know, we can use bus stop. So 5 into 4, we can't do it, so we pass it over. 5 into 40, we know that it's 8 times. 5 into 0 is 0. So I know that 1/5 of 400 is 80 litres, but I need 3/5. So I'm going to times this answer by 3. So we've got 80 times by 3. 0 times 3 is 0. 8 times 3 is 24. And then I can carry that 2 back up. So my answer to this one, if I can squeeze it in, is 240 litres. And the same with the bottom one. The first thing I have to do is do 84 divided by 7. That is a times table fact that I should know. So I know that 84 divided by 7 is 12. But that's 1/7, not 2/7. So then I would have to do 12 times by 2, which equals 24 pounds.
Right, here's the time in the video where we're going to be looking at all of your hard work. Just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has been working so hard, showing us all of your wonderful work and sending it in through Dojo or email or however you've been doing it. It's really, really well appreciated, and please, please, please keep it up. Let's see if you can spot any of your work that's been put on these PowerPoints this week.
Well done for all the wonderful work, and please keep sending it in. Right, so now is time for the next chapter of our story, and here it goes. Learning to swim. Baba has made ukka from tinned catfish and vegetables. Wood crackles in the hearth and flames lick up the side of the cauldron. The heat and the smell of fish and spices mingle with my thoughts of losing Nina, making me feel queasy. Tonight, we'll treat the desert dead with a fish supper. Baba nods at the table and smiles. It's already laid with kvass and glasses, and bowls of food with a decidedly fishy theme. Pickled herring with soured cream from the cold pantry. Blinis with smoked salmon and dill. Salted dried vodbla and mini fish dumplings. There is nothing left for me to do, so I sit and help myself to a blini, hoping it will unknot my stomach. Did you sleep well? Baba asks. I nod. I'm sorry I didn't help with the cooking. It's fine. Baba looks at me intently and I wonder if she suspects anything. I shift in my seat and gaze across the table. The food looks lovely. Makes a change from bush. Baba sips the fish broth and adds more pepper. Tell me the death journey words. I don't know them. I frown, thinking about how I didn't want to know them. I've heard the death journey words 1,000 times, and every time I've done my best to ignore them. Try, Baba urges. The nightingale that sings finds the song. I grumble and stumble over the words. May you have the strength on the long and arduous journey ahead. The stars are waiting for you. Calling for you, Baba corrects. Move on with gratitude for your time on earth. I rub my temples to make it seem like I'm trying to remember. Every moment now an eternity, Baba whispers. With infinite value? I ask, my thoughts drifting to Nina. How lovely it would be to show her the ocean. You carry with you memories of infinite value, Baba nods. And then? The bit that always changes is next. I stuff the last piece of blini into my mouth, in the hope that it will stop Baba asking me anything else. That's right, Baba smiles. Then you explain what the soul has gained from their life and is taking to the stars. It is often the love of family or friends, but there is an endless variety of gifts the dead can take with them. The power of music, the excitement of discovery, the light of hope. Baba goes on, but my mind wanders again. If I spend my life guiding the dead, how will I ever gain anything to take to the stars myself? Marinka? Baba swings back into focus as she adds a plate of spicy honeyed bread to the table. Pardon? I murmur. Do you remember the last words? I shake my head and sigh. Peace at returning to the stars. Baba makes a sweeping circle with her hands. The great cycle is complete. An uncomfortable heat prickles the back of my neck as Baba entwines her fingers tightly together and looks right into my eyes. The cycle needs to complete. My heart beats faster and I feel like I might be sick. She knows. She knows about Nina. I look away, wiping my sweaty palms on my skirt. That's why guardians are so important. We have a responsibility to help souls complete their journey, to return to the stars from whence they came. What if they don't? I ask quietly, my whole head tingling. Baba's jaw drops open in shock. Maybe she doesn't know about Nina after all. Why, they would be lost forever. She gasped as if that would be the absolute worst thing in the whole universe. I lift a piece of honey bread from the plate and pick crumbs off it. I'm not hungry, just trying to distract myself. I didn't want to think about what Baba just said. I think you should say the death journey words this evening. Baba nods slowly. I think you should guide someone through the gate. No, I can't. I shake both my head and my hands quickly. I'm not ready. Sometimes the best way to learn is to jump in. Baba smiles, her whiskers and teeth pointing out at all angles. Remember when you learned to swim? I roll my eyes and groan. The house had been settled on a sheer cliff overlooking a deep lagoon, with warm azure water and white sunlight dappling the surface. Baba kept asking me to try and swim, but I didn't want to get my face wet. One day I was standing on the cliff, looking out over the lagoon to the ocean beyond, when the house lifted itself up, stretched out one of its long spindly legs and kicked me into the water. I screamed in free fall and landed hard in the strange echoing silence of the underwater world. After what seemed like an eternity of struggling, I burst up through the surface, gasping for air and desperately reaching for something solid. There was nothing to hold on to, no floor beneath me, nothing but sky above. My face kept sinking beneath the waves. The more I thrashed, the more I was pulled down. After swallowing several mouthfuls of salty water, I took one last breath of air and let myself drop beneath the surface. I opened my eyes, blinked, and all my panic ebbed away. It was so calm and peaceful, so blue and endless. Flecks of silt hung suspended in the water, illuminated by columns of sunset. I began to move, slowly and smoothly, as I had watched the turtles do in the mornings. My limbs propelled me gently forwards, so I used the same pattern but kicked harder. Soon I was flying through the water, moving up to gulp air, then descending back beneath the surface and gliding towards the shore. Every day after that I swam, face under the water, eyes open. But I didn't forgive the house for a long time. If I'm honest, I'm not sure I ever really did. I was so cross that I ignored the vine swings the house grew for me and its claws when they poked me to play tag. I don't remember playing with the house at all after that day. All of a sudden, I miss the times when I was younger and the house and I were friends. But then I remember what the house did and the anger bubbles up inside me again. That could have killed me, I said to both Baba and the house. Nonsense, Baba laughs, then shakes her head. The house was watching over you and you know how well it can swim. You were never in any danger. She pats the chimney breast tenderly. The house will always take care of you, Marinka. You should know that by now. The door creaks open and the first of the dead drifts in. It's a translucent old man, wide-eyed and pale. Baba rushes to him, beaming. Words pour from her mouth, and though I try to focus, my mind is spinning with thoughts of Nina, the great cycle, returning to the stars, and the panic I felt when I sank beneath the blue lagoon before I was ready to swim. More of the dead arrive, wispy and solid, quiet and talkative. I'm curious to find out if I will understand any of them the way I understand Nina. But I don't. Not properly. I get a hazy impression of their thoughts and memories conveyed by body language and facial expressions. Maybe the odd word here and there. It's not like with Nina at all. Nina, I feel like I should check on her, but I don't want to open my bedroom door in case she's pulled away. The gate is open now, the dead disappearing one by one. Marinka, Baba calls. She's holding a cobweb of a man, guiding him slowly to the gate. I know what she wants. She wants me to say the death journey words and send him on his way. She's picked this old man because he's so ready, his soul is practically on the journey already. He has a faraway look in his eyes, like he sees the stars and is placed with them. I turn my back on Baba, pretend I didn't hear her, and wander around the room, serving spirit trust and fake smiles. I don't want to guide anyone through the gate, not the old man, and certainly not Nina. Straightening my spine, I take a deep breath and tell myself I can't be forced into guiding the way the house forced me to learn how to swim. And although I feel a sharp pang of guilt for ignoring Baba, the rush of power at taking control of my life, if only for a short time, makes it all worthwhile. Well, that's the end of the video, so I hope it's been really useful to you. So just one more message, please stay safe. Thank you for watching.